I hereby summon all my imps. Hey everybody, it's Annabelle. So Legion is out and he is on the boards doing a very naughty thing. So for what a lot of you might not know, or a lot of you might not have experienced, is the Legion deck that looks something like this. Now this might not be the best variant out there, but this is what a lot of Legion looks like. And basically the whole idea is you play Storm, then you play Legion on the Storm location, and then your opponent doesn't get a turn 6. Some variant of that. And the problem with that is to me it almost feels like the old Galactus. If you got the Wave and then Galactus and then Spider-Man, you basically didn't get a turn 6. And that felt bad. And part of the issue is that if you look at Legion is a 5/8, so it's pretty much one of the highest power cards for 5. There's only 3 cards that are better than him, all of which have some quote-unquote downside. You know, but so the easiest solution to this is just take Legion and cut him down to a 5/3. That will put him basically in the same place as Sandman. It does almost the same effect as Sandman if you're really limiting that last turn. Easy peasy, done, move on. But then I started to think about it. And I would really like if Second Dinner got into doing more cards like Legion. Imagine a card somewhere in the future where it turned a location into negative zone, and then you could play Legion on that and make everything negative zone. That's an interesting effect. And while I was going through pretty much all the locations that I could find, there's not too many locations that really bite Legion. If you turn something into that triple location. I mean, yes, you've got like stuff like Altar of Death, and you got Bar with No Name, and you've even got stuff like Chrism and Cosmos and the Vault. But, you know, all of those are more fun, more playful. I mean, if you get them randomly, that's great. And if you wanted to nix the locations that don't work well, like Altar of Death, then you just don't use it as one. And the only way you could get it would be with Scarlet Witch. I mean, because the only other cards that have a reliable way of changing locations are Limbo and Rhino. I should say Magic and Rhino. Magic turns it into Limbo, which doesn't matter if it's tripled. You get a turn 7, and Rhino turns it into Runes, which doesn't matter which, just turns off the location, all 3 locations. Scarlet Witch is so random that good luck trying to make that into something. The one that really hurts is Legion and Storm. And I tried to come up with some sort of errata to put on Legion where it could only be used on like standard locations where it wouldn't be working on Flooded or Limbo. And I thought about that for a while. But it seemed like a lot to do. trying to figure out what's a standard location and what's a not standard location. So, in the end of it, it felt like the big offender is Storm. So I kind of came up with a new way that Storm could work. So, this is just my idea. It's a quick sketch, and I'm not the best drawer in the world, so just take this with a grain of salt. So when you first got her out, when you put her down, it looks like this instead. It kind of makes a wave on the left and the right side and kind of gives you this little caution flag. Saying like, hey, pay attention to this. This would still open up the lanes and everything else like that if this happened to be like, the throne, then you'd still get the ability to play there with the extra cards. And then when it turned to turn 2, it would look like this. The side would turn red, and the rest of the places would get flooded. The only difference that this would make is that it would change it so that if you played Legion on Storm, it would turn it back into this, in this situation, to the Johannesburger. Or sorry, Jotunheim. So that way you couldn't get the cheeky Storm in turn 6. I don't know if this is possible. I don't know if I'm just making stuff up as I go along. I don't know if that would require a lot of change to how the card would work. That you'd have to click on the Storm to see what she did, but Rescue has the same basic ability. And it's only on the card that doesn't change the location. It would work like Rescue does, or it would work like Armor does. It would just make it so that you have a better chance of throwing something down in there and not just getting a cheeky win. I mean, if the people who did Second Dinner really meant for this to be the interaction and how it worked, then more power to them. I'm not gonna say that you did something wrong. But right now, this just feels like an ugly way to win. Because if you play down the Storm, and you even know for a fact that the Legion is coming down next turn on that Storm location, unless you have a Cosmo, or unless you have your own Magic or Rhino or Scarlet Witch, there's basically absolutely positively nothing you can do about it. And that feels bad. I don't think it's a powerful card at this point. I don't know if you're going to go and get infinite by doing this trick. But sometimes it's not about how the card performs, but how the card feels. And again, I would love if somewhere in the future you were able to put out more cards that change locations into something else. But it just feels bad to sit there and go, no turn 6 for you. And as the opponent, even if you know it's coming, what can you really do about it? And it's one of the few combos that you really can't do anything about. I mean, yeah, you can say, you can Cosmo it, you can Storm it yourself before you get to that location, you can Runes it, you can Magic it, you can Scarlet Witch it, but that's like saying you can do those same things with Galactus. I mean, it's a little bit more telegraphed and you know it's coming. But when you used to get Wave into Galactus into Spider-Man, sometimes you knew it was coming and there was nothing you could do about it anyway. and it felt bad. So, I would really like to see some sort of change to this combination, and not just taking Legion and knocking him down to 3. I mean, if you need to take Legion and knock him down to 3 to fix this, then go for it. Because that basically means that even if you know it's coming, as long as you can throw a 6 cost card on that, you're going to win that location for sure. Anyways, thank you all so much for watching. And as always, remember, play for fun.